There we go. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this public meeting of the Standing Committee on Economic Development and Environment. We particularly appreciate you tuning in during the Oilers-Panthers game. My name is Julian Morse. I am the MLA for Frame Lake and Deputy Chair of this committee. I will now ask members in the room to introduce themselves for the record, followed by members who are online. So we'll start with Ms. Reid.
Good evening, I'm Kate Reid. I'm the MLA for Great Slave here in Yellowknife. Go Oilers.
Hi there, I'm Shauna Morgan, MLA for Yellowknife North. I'm happy to do this presentation tonight, or to see this presentation tonight. It's good to see you again, Richard.
Okay, and I believe we have at least one member online. Mr. Hawkins, you want to introduce yourself? Okay, we cannot hear you, and I assume you've been trying to speak, so looks like there may be an audio issue on your end. But we'll, in lieu of Mr. Hawkins introducing himself, I'll just say that he's Robert Hawkins, he's the chair of this committee, and is unable to attend in person this evening, but is calling in, and he's the member for Yellowknife Centre here in Yellowknife. So we'll now go over to the public briefing on clean energy with Dinjii Zhuh Solutions. And I'm going to pass it over to the presenters. Please introduce yourselves and proceed with your presentation, and we'll go to questions afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Richard Nerisu, and I'll take care of the presentation tonight. Trina's been busy helping and getting things organized, so I'll deal with the issue today. And thank you very much for inviting me and allowing me to participate. And not sure, Mr. Chairman, did you want me to begin the presentation?
Yes, please. I believe that we are ready to screen it on our end, and it's been brought up. So feel free to walk through your slides, and if you can, yeah, go ahead. Okay,
thank you very much. We're just checking here for rats, so I don't know what that means. Anyhow, just thank you, committee members, for having me. I am here on behalf of Dinjii Zhuh Solutions to present on the significant initiative undertaken in Tetlejay, so-called Fort McPherson, a residential retrofit project. You've got the first slide up. This effort is rooted in both community need and environmental responsibility. Our core objective with this project is to improve the residential energy efficiency, thereby reducing communities' reliance on costly and carbon-heavy diesel heating. The project is a tangible step towards Canada's 2030 and 2050 net zero emission targets. Today's presentation will take you through the retrofit pilot scope, measurable outcomes so far, community engagement, and valuable operational lessons. I'll also outline an ambitious yet grounded plan for expanding this work over the next 5 years. The retrofit program addresses critical challenges unique to northern and remote communities where climate-driven permafrost melt, to increasing energy costs, and positions Tetlejay as a leader in northern climate resilience. Next slide. To understand the importance and future potential of retrofitting homes in Tetlejay, it's vital to look at community demographics and the energy landscape. The community has a population of 700 with 90% identifying as Indigenous, underscoring the importance of culturally appropriate local-led housing initiatives. Housing is nearly evenly split between 128 privately owned homes and 134 rental units, with a significant portion of homeowners, 64%, age 65 and over, and aging homes and residents amplify the urgency for safe, warm, efficient housing solutions. Diesel remains the dominant heating fuel for all but 5 homes. The rising costs and environmental concerns highlight why this retrofit initiative must expand. Next slide. Our retrofit pilot project set out with a clear goal to improve the energy efficiency of homes in Tegligé, ultimately reducing diesel consumption and cutting home heating costs for residents. We selected 5 homes for this vital phase out of 128 privately owned residences in the community. These homes were chosen based on structural needs and potential energy efficiency gains. The measures applied were comprehensive, from insulating the building envelope, floors, and attics, to replacing roofs, upgrading to triple pane windows, installing new double doors and LED exterior lighting, and leveling foundations. In some cases, homes were lifted to stabilize permafrost compromised structures. Each upgrade was chosen for its proven capacity to improve thermal performance and the structural resilience in northern environments. Next slide. The retrofit adhered to a tight northern construction schedule, not launching in July 2024 and wrapping up in October, capitalizing on the short but critical summer construction window. Key milestones include the successful completion of retrofits on all 5 homes. Already, residents are reporting their homes feel noticeably warmer, with reduction in heating fuel use. A highlight of the project was integrating a Dawson City-based contractor with hands-on support from 3 apprentices, 2 local and 1 local laborer, contributing to community employment and skills development. This collaboration provided vital for project delivery and workforce capacity building. Next slide, please. A critical element of this project success has been active community engagement. We hosted open houses to inform residents about the retrofit plans and their benefits, energy efficiency practices, and how this work supports broader net zero emission goals for 2030 and 2050. Regular updates on CBQM, our local radio station, kept the community in the loop throughout the summer. The result has been increasing homeowner interest in future retrofits, driven by both economic realities and the increasing impacts of climate change, particularly permafrost degradation. Next slide, please. Like any northern infrastructure project, the retrofit pilot encountered logistical and operational hurdles. Supply chain disruptions caused by landslides and forest fires cut off road access to and from Whitehorse. delaying material shipments and forcing our Dawson City-based contractor to fly in and out rather than drive. A lack of available accommodations in Fort McPherson meant we had to rent a house for the entire summer, significantly raising project overhead. We also needed to rent additional space for materials and equipment for further straining the budget. The key lessons for future projects include acquiring a mobile camp to house the crew cost effectively and securing dedicated storage area to safeguard supplies and improve operational flexibility. These are practical moves to lower costs and boost efficiencies. Next slide, please. As we look ahead to scaling this retrofit program over the next 5 years, there are a few funding realities and implications for the project's success. Firstly, core funding for the full 5-year plan has not yet been secured. We're actively submitting proposals to several government departments, both the territorial and the federal government, and we've also begun conversations with the Gwich'in Tribal Council. But until those approvals are in place, project continuity and scheduling remain uncertain. Secondly, while most operational capital costs, including accommodation, storage, and equipment, are covered within our proposed budget, there's a specific gap around apprentice training. We're working with the Department of Education, Culture, and Employment to secure funding that would support annual training for apprentices in Southern Canada or with Arctic College. This may require a specific proposal to meet the educational needs and requirements and the trades training required. Without this, our workforce development targets and long-term employment opportunities for local residents could be compromised. We've also proposed capital purchases, specifically a modular camp for crew accommodations and a permanent storage lot to improve operational efficiency and reduce long-term project costs. These investments remain dependent on funding approval, which could impact project logistics and overhead if delayed. Lastly, we built inflationary costs and contingency funds into our proposal to address rising costs and supply chain risks. None of these provisions are secured without funding being in place. If material and fuel prices spike, that would create budgetary pressures and project delays. These are manageable challenges, but they do reinforce the importance of timely and coordinated funding commitments to keep this essential community retrofit program moving forward. Next slide, please. Our future plans, building on the success and lessons learned from our pilot project, has resulted in the development of an ambitious 5-year capital plan to retrofit 20 homes annually in Fort McPherson. This would result in 100 homes being retrofitted in the next 5 years. This expanded program would vastly improve community housing quality, lower diesel consumption, and strengthen climate resilience. Our workforce development strategy includes forming 2 dedicated retrofit teams to work on 2 homes simultaneously from May to September. This will enable us to onboard additional apprentices and provide pathways to certification, helping build a skilled local construction workforce for years to come. We've also focused on practical operational upgrades, including purchasing a camp trailer and acquiring a storage lot to reduce future logistical risk and costs. I've spoken on that previously. These investments support a sustainable community led housing retrofit program for the North. Next slide, please. Conclusion. The retrofit and energy efficiency project in Tetlejay isn't just about improving housing and reducing carbon emissions. It's also about reducing home operating costs that will result in long-term financial benefits to government of that NWT. By improving the energy efficiency of homes, this may result in the reduction of subsidies for heating homes in the NWT. A focus on retrofits and improving energy efficiency will deliver the highest financial returns while improving safety and comfort to vulnerable residents and homeowners. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to committee members for questions now. Does anyone want to get us going? Ms. Morgan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to Mr. Nersu for taking us through some of the great work that you've been doing there. One question that pops to mind is you were talking about how important to the project it is to be training and increasing local capacity and trying to get local people doing the work. We've heard certainly from like ECE and other situations where they're trying to train people that they're struggling to find enough like qualified supervisors to actually train the apprentices. So even if you get a bunch of people signing up to be apprentices, there might be a shortage of, you know, red steel carpenters or whatever it is that would actually be available to train them. Was that a challenge for you? Is that something you've thought about how to overcome?
Thank you. Mr. Nersu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we have. We've thought about it. And one of the things that we've been insistent upon and will really recommend and suggest to the members in this committee and to the government is to be adamant that certified tradespersons be involved in projects like the one we're undertaking. And the reason we say that is that it allows us to sign up appropriate journeymen into the projects that we're proposing. And others will propose in the future. We do say, yes, that is correct. That is a challenge. But having said that, I can say that one of the certainties for sure is that if we develop the project and are certain about the commitment to a project schedule like the one we have proposed, we've been having good conversations with the construction industry and contractors that they'd be committed to being part of a long-term project and provide the appropriate certified supervisors and journeymen to projects like this. I think what we're finding is that the commitments to projects is when they're short-term, we just don't find enough people to be involved in projects of the type we're talking about. Retrofits, if you don't have the requirements of certification, then the journeymen are just not going to participate.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Morgan, do you have a follow-up on that one?
Yeah, that's a really important insight Thank you for that, Richard. Just even to understand that if there's longer term funding and commitment and sort of a project schedule, then that allows you to gain that momentum and to be able to do the capacity building and have it be more sustainable. I was curious to know what gave you the idea to focus specifically on home retrofits and energy efficiency in the first place, given that, I mean, every community is different, but many other community organizations or local development corporations or businesses have focused a bit more on the generation of renewables, like, you know, setting up solar panels or, and you don't hear as much about people taking the initiative to do energy efficiency work and retrofits. And I wondered what made you decide to focus on that aspect, whether it was seeing opportunities for local jobs and training or just having a certain conviction about the importance of energy efficiency. Wondered if you could speak to how this all began.
Thanks. Mr. Narasu?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I can say we didn't leave out the issue of dealing and addressing with clean energy and green energy. That is actually where we first began. What I also want to advise the members is that I was involved in a project called Indigenous Off-Diesel Initiative that was guided by Indigenous Clean Energy Enterprise out of Ottawa and included Natural Resources Canada and the Pembina Institute. And that resulted in myself developing a community energy plan. So over a period of time, and we had to basically go through the whole COVID period to develop the community energy plan, and that resulted in a number of priorities. We started out with the development of a proposal for solar farm and solar project in Fort McPherson. That proposal is still in the hands of the government of Canada. That being said, I had because there were some issues around that project, and I had as one would say, been awarded $1.6 million of funding. I decided that one of the options that we had is to improve the energy efficiency of homes, simply because the amount of elderly homeowners in Fort McPherson is pretty significant. And so I just wanted to make certain that we had a plan of action to help them and continue to promote the idea of home ownership. The other issue is that we can all talk about building new. The problem that I think we can all identify as legislators and leaders is that we're not going to get enough money to replace 100 homes in the next 4 or 5 years. It's just not going to happen. So the issue then for us is to try to find a solution. And so this was the approach that I took, and we began the process by building an initiative around that. Can I maybe respond one more to the issue of training? One good situation that came out of our project last year is that we ended up including an individual who is able to write their second and third year in carpentry. And had we finished that work, he would have been part of the project, completing his 4th year in carpentry, and would have been going to his 4th year of the carpentry program. So we would have, in 1 year or 2 years, we would have been in a position where we would have had a certified carpenter in Fort McPherson working on the project. So that's an example of where we ran into a bit of success, and but we're very happy that others are willing to take on the educational part as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have Ms. Reed next for questions.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the presentation. I want to focus a little bit on the breakdown of homes in Tête Léger. In your presentation on one of the earlier slides, you spoke about there being 128 homeowners and 134 public units, and that kind of got my mind to wondering if there is any efficiencies that you have been able to address in your project work so far, sort of from your lessons learned, especially when it came to supply chain. I was wondering if you have partnered at all with Housing NWT, or have any plans to partner with Housing NWT to sort of do maybe bulk purchases of materials, of shipping, reducing shipping costs, that sort of thing, to sort of increase your ability to stretch your dollars, I guess. And indeed, if there is any capacity building within such a relationship as well in terms of skills. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Narcy.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We just want you to know that one of the outcomes of the work that we did was we actually did a self-assessment retrofit project review to, and we actually, I'll just, if you look at the screen, you will see that I have a document. And the document here is we hired a consulting firm to help us go through the project evaluation. So we did a really in-depth assessment of lessons learned, the issues, the mistakes, and out of that, we came up with suggested recommendations for improving our approaches into the next 5 years. And we thought this was really important for us because we needed to make certain that we didn't lose the opportunity to learn hard lessons and to find ways to move forward. We have had, just for your information, we have had previous conversations with Housing Corporation and NWT Housing, or Housing NWT, I don't know what the name is now, previously about partnering and being part of the initiatives. And the reason why we did this was to reduce costs, not only to the Housing Corporation, but to take advantage of the synergies, both in terms of expertise and knowledge, and also with the idea of making certain that there were ways in which we could reduce costs to the government and to ourselves in the project. So we're open to all of that. The other thing that happened is that we have developed a good working relationship with suppliers, particularly in Whitehorse, that have provided us with very good costs for supplies, and it's an indigenous owned. The other issue that we've been having conversations about is actually dealing directly with suppliers to find out if suppliers might be willing to put their name on a project of the type we're talking about and provide us with specific or special type prices so that they can be part of a net zero initiative north of the Arctic Circle and in the north. So it's one of those things that we've been thinking about, but I do agree that working with Housing Corporation, Housing NWT is really important in this process.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, more of a comment than a question, really. But I do agree with my colleague, Ms. Morgan, around a lot of her questions around capacity building, and in this too, I wonder, like, building up that local capacity that you spoke of so eloquently in your presentation, and making sure there are education opportunities, regardless if it's in your particular program stream or if it's in housing's program stream. Obviously, having as many people trained in trades that are going to help you do these retrofits and other such housing-based programs it can only benefit the community and the region. So I'm wondering too if you could maybe speak a little bit more about your conversations that you've had with ECE and where maybe any roadblocks lie or any problems you might be seeking committee's assistance on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nersu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had conversations approximately a year ago, and just for your information, we're actually going to be meeting with them next week, and we're going to be hopefully developing a plan of action with them because I think it's really critical. There are a couple of challenges that we're all facing in the north. The level of education is really important in the conversation. So adult education and improving the ability of those that are in communities to qualify or meet the qualifications and the requirements for any trades program is going to be really critical. Another suggestion that I would make to all the members of the Legislative Assembly is to think seriously about the idea of including trades education in high school. And I say this both in terms of the opportunities that it provides and the ability for the North to have students that are capable of entering trades programs. And for that matter, the trades programs don't have to start after high school. They can actually begin as part of the educational programming in the Northwest Territories. And that any of the educational, whether or not it's in high school, grade 10, 11, and 12, all of those opportunities are there for us to take advantage of. We just need to, I guess, to have a good conversation about how that can be done. Not every student that's in high school can head to university or to college. Many of them are technical in capacity, and they learn much better dealing with on hands. And it's just real opportunity for us to take advantage of improving the outcomes of the educational programming in the Northwest Territories.
Thank you very much. The next question, unfortunately, Mr. Hawkins is still having a bit of difficulty with audio, but I'm going to ask a question on his behalf. He was wondering, are there regulations or other similar concerns that have caused your project to stall? Have you encountered any roadblocks?
We haven't encountered any roadblocks as a result of the work that we're doing. What I would say to Mr. Chairman, all the members of the Legislative Assembly is to start to begin to ensure that we're serious about the implementation of our strategy to meet the net zero requirements in 2030 and 2050 in construction, in the identifying the codes and applying them accordingly. That's the only way, in my view, we can move forward. I know the cost issues around increasing the building codes is always an issue. But my concern is that if you don't approve the building codes so that they improve the quality of homes and building in the Northwest Territories, we're all going to come back to a point where we're going to have to add more costs in the future to upgrade the homes and upgrade the buildings that we have being constructed from at least the new construction. We can deal with the issue of retrofits, but I really think there needs to be this conversation of ensuring that we're going to meet the objectives that have been set out by the Legislative Assembly and the whole issue of the energy strategy for the Northwest Territories that was approved in 2018, and that probably has since been amended and supported by legislatures within these last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Hawkins, if you have a follow-up question, feel free to just type it in there and I'll ask it on your behalf again. We'll go to round 2 for questions. In the meantime, do any members have further questions for Mr. Narasu? Ms. Morgan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it is super interesting to understand better your sort of evolution of the story of how you got here. And it sounds like you have this proposal that you developed for a solar farm, and it's sort of just sitting with the feds. Do you have a vision for what you want to do with your company, like what your role will be in the future around renewable energy generation? Like, have you sort of mapped out where you'd like to be in 5 years, or what other kinds of projects you want to pursue? I know that you're focused on expanding the energy retrofit program right now, but I just wondered if you had sort of a big vision for other types of projects too that you're aspiring towards.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could put on that table of yours in front of you for your colleagues to see, and to really mind map the things that I really want to do. It is about the idea of developing a larger solar project in Fort McPherson, not just simply the concept around net metering, but rather to replace completely the power production in the diesel plant here in Fort McPherson. So in other words, to build a solar project, a clean energy project between 300 and 400 kilowatts, so that we're capable of taking and reducing completely the cost of the government of the Northwest Territories and the Power Corporation on costs for operating that plant. We have that opportunity, but it's whether or not that there's that possibility. I want to say one other thing, or not a couple of other things. You know, when I've listened to the Legislative Assembly and I've listened to the conversation that you've had around renewable or clean diesel. I think that could be part of the process. I mean, I think of Fort McPherson being maybe a pilot in testing that, along with developing clean energy. Because if we do those things and synergize the ideas that northern leaders and northern communities are having, it will result in much better outcomes for all of us, so that we don't become so competitive with each other and each other's ideas. Rather, maybe we do need an example of how those things can work. And for me, I want Fort McPherson to be maybe that leader, that pilot community that can bring these things together and see that there is success and outcome that we can share and research and develop together that would be beneficial to the Northwest Territories. And for that matter, it can be a way in which we can sell what you might say is our experience, our knowledge, and our expertise. But for me, you know, sometimes I think we get caught in this idea of building, building, and we forget that we should also become an entity, a community in the North of researching, developing expertise and knowledge that allows us to lead in climate change action. And there's no reason why we can't. And I would hope that we would consider that, particularly as leaders who want to do better and improve the quality of life for the people of our communities and reduce costs, but at the same time be leaders in research, development, and technology. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Morgan, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thanks for that, Richard. That is inspiring, actually, and good for us to remember that it's not just about just building more and more new things, but trying to change the way we do things and to be innovative in the way we think and the way we do things. So it's definitely find that answer inspiring. Do you have anything specific you can tell the committee about, like, what you might need to get to the next step of your energy retrofit project? It sounds like you are meeting with the GNWT, I think you said, next week, but I don't know if there's anything that you want to ask of this committee that from our side we could recommend, whether that's a different way of funding or policy change or anything that that we might be able to assist from our side to help you sort of get to the next step or help realize your vision.
Thanks. Mr. Narasu for a response.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, I really believe that the comment made earlier about the Housing Corporation needing to work with communities to develop a synergy of initiatives that can support one another. That's the first thing, because our own past experience has not been successful when we've been trying to talk about cost reduction or projects. And we need the government to understand that the Housing Corporation doesn't need to work by itself. And there's the synergy of costs and funding that we can partner together. There might be some challenges with regard to that, and I say that because we need to have the conversation also with the Government of Canada, especially when it comes to stacking money. If we can find more money, if the Indigenous community can find some money, and we can utilize funds from the Housing Corporation, and that we can get additional resources out of the Government of Canada, so that we're cost sharing and we're achieving the same outcomes and better outcomes, I think that becomes really important in the conversation and discussion. The other matters, of course, are all about training and education. We need, the North needs tradespeople, and the North needs builders. And if we're capable of working with the government, I think that becomes really critical for all of us. But because into the future, we are just not going to have enough people to do the job that we need to build buildings in our communities, and for that matter, in every community. And we shouldn't see trades as something that limits people into communities. We should see education, trade certification as an ability to actually free people up to make decisions about where they move to and to what communities they're going to be engaged in and how they're going to be building facilities and infrastructure, schools, houses, any of the infrastructure we need in the North. I think that becomes really important. The other thing that I would suggest is that we not see these projects, that we not see these projects in isolation from the economic value and the importance of the projects, even for the government to in its financial well-being. Because the more people we have building, the more people we have working, the more infrastructure we need to improve the quality of life in our communities, the more people stay, the more people are willing to contribute, and the less costs we have on our social programs in the Northwest Territories, or for that matter, in Canada. It's really important we see it that way. Otherwise, I just think we have good leaders that are willing to have a conversation about the options, but we can't be siloed. We can't talk about projects based on who is responsible in government of NWT, government of Canada, and the government for the Indigenous communities. We got to see it as an opportunity, and what does that opportunity result in improving the quality of life and reducing cost to government, while at the same time ensuring that governments can deliver on programs and services for the people and residents of the North, for us, but for us in Fort McPherson.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Ms. Reid, do you have some round two questions, or? Nope, okay. I have a couple questions of my own. Just noting that you're ramping it up, or it looks like you're planning to ramp up the schedule quite a bit and moving to 20 homes per year. And that strikes me as very ambitious. I'm just wondering, are you fully funded for that goal, like to be doing the 20 homes per year over the next 5 years, or is that kind of an ambition that you're setting? Do you want to help us understand how this is all going to work? Or I guess this is the year that you'd be doing the 20 homes?
Well, it would have been the year, Mr. Chairman, it would have been the year we began the homes. But like everything else, elections get in the way. And one of the things we encountered is that the government decided that they weren't going to deal with any additional projects because we were in the midst of the call for the election. And so the result of that is that there was delays and we've really had no response since our developing the proposal, and we actually had the proposal developed in almost last year, and we just dealt with it in the details before the end of this fiscal year. But all of that was ready. So we know that we probably will have to stand down and say, okay, well, maybe all of these things, our plan for this year may have to change, and the planning may have to, we have to reschedule what it is we wanted to do, but that's okay. For me, that's okay. I think it just gives us a better opportunity for us to organize the schedule, put in place the teams, develop the training program, develop our ability and the infrastructure at the community level, so that we are able to ensure that those that are coming in from outside the community have a place to stay. The other thing is that it allows us to schedule all of our teams, and because what we did was just for your information, we actually used a bit of the oil and gas timing schedule last year, and that was that we scheduled the crew to come in, we gave them time off, and that result was very good for us. But had we had another team, or probably the project would have been finished sooner. But that's, again, we got to have the scheduling correct, the people identified, and the other issue for us is we've learned is that I'm not a project manager. And I know that I would have had a team. Now I would have a team and a project manager because there's all kinds of issues that came up last year in the project that completely changed the scheduling. And I would not be doing that again. I would be hiring a project manager and community oversight and a team to take care of that along with construction. But that's lessons learned, and but that's okay. I mean, I think that was very helpful for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that answer. And that kind of answers the second question I had, which it sounds like most of the funding for this kind of project is coming from the federal government. But yeah, I think that this is it's really exciting hearing about this project. It's really exciting, you know, thinking about how, you know, I always like to think that, you know, probably our biggest disadvantage and our biggest advantage in the Northwest Territories is our size. And when you think about it, a project to retrofit 128 homes, that's a tangible project that can be done in not a huge amount of time, as you've illustrated with your plan. I mean, 20 homes per year, over 5 years, and you've got all the private homes in the community. And so it's really achievable, which I think is really exciting to look at. And yeah, so our size can really be an advantage in that case. I don't have any further questions, and I'm not seeing any further from committee. Did you want to? Okay, Ms. Morgan, I'll give you the chance to ask another one. Nope.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as you were talking there, it occurred to me, I mean, the focus of our committee is both like economic development and environment. And the project is kind of merging both these themes, but you know, it sounds like your initiative and your business is also trying to merge those things. On the one hand, you're trying to help us meet our climate goals and serve social purposes, but you're also trying to create a business, and you're trying to create jobs, and you're trying to create economic development. And we've talked a lot about the energy side of it, but I wondered if in your sort of lessons learned, you felt that you could use more training in the community or supports just around like business administration or business management, or you talked about like project management skills, and I can see how that would be just like an entirely, like a full-time job for someone, and you know, if you're trying to do it off the side of your desk, it's never going to work. But I wondered if on the business development side of things, you see some things missing or lacking in terms of what's being offered, either in terms of education or training or supports. I think often in the territory, we think of economic development as just, well, not always, but just sort of creating jobs, so people working for somebody else. But sometimes we forget about the importance of people starting their own businesses and entrepreneurship and seeing opportunities. And I wondered if you see any gaps or things missing to help more people like you try to start your own business.
Mr. Narasu?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes. Here's how we, even with the material order that we had, we wanted to utilize and utilize the Tetlige Development Corporation, which is the band-owned corporation. So we, rather than, they didn't have the skills, but we were able to utilize them and flow through the delivery of materials. And we ended up paying them to support them so that they were making money. And then they ended up getting into the material supply business. So that's good for us, because now what ended up happening is, with the outcome of that relationship, is we have a material supplier in Fort McPherson that we never had before, about 3 years ago. And so now we have a material supplier in Fort McPherson. What I do say is that equipment, specific equipment related to infrastructure construction, there's none in Fort McPherson. And with the exception of heavy equipment operators, but there were specific types of equipment that we didn't have. And that could, in my view, be much better delivered by businesses that are capable of doing that. Even if it's the BAN or the DGO or private sector that would supply that equipment to us, that would be great. The other issue is expediting. You know, we have companies here that might do that, but would have been helpful for a small company to do some of the expediting to deliver, to go to Nuvik, for instance, to pick up supplies that could be delivered to the project, or for that matter, equipment rent or truck and rental. All of that stuff that we didn't have that really could be advantageous, and it's not specific to this project, but could be beneficial. And that all of that were things that we were thinking about. The other thing, just as additional conversation around the energy side, Fort McPherson has had a biomass project that has been receiving funding for about at least 10, 12 years now. We have not developed and trained individuals that could monitor and manage that project. And that's not a good thing in terms of our ability as a community to be energy sovereign, energy efficient. It's critical that we have trained individuals at the community level. And when you're expanding into solar energy, much of the work around all of that is computer education and skills to manage and monitor it. So if we could have individuals that are willing to get the necessary training to take care of that, to operate, to manage, to maintain, rather than bringing people into the community on a regular basis. Or maybe we can partner with a community in the region that also provides that same support. Maybe it's more than just about building capacity only for Fort McPherson, but having regional expertise that can deliver a service to more than one community. And so that's kind of, I guess, my thinking about this. Another issue that, another example is Sigachik, which is our next door neighbor, has been having conversations with us about the idea of developing a plan to improve the energy efficiency of 20 homes in Sigachik as well. And so we've had that conversation. We've also talked to them about the idea of joint training and synergy around that, and utilizing the labor that could be provided out at Sigachik, even to work in the project in Fort McPherson, and the labor and the skills out of Fort McPherson working in Sigachik. So we're trying to develop what you might say is capacity as much as we can. My hope is that we could do it in a good way. The other thing that I would say, a couple of other things that we've done in Fort McPherson now with the Dinjii Zhuh Solutions is we partnered with Arctic Energy, and we did 6 energy efficient energy audits. But out of my project, I spent an additional $70,000 to do 30 energy audits, and we want to do that again. But we need to, because that becomes really important in the work we do, because energy audits allow you to access other energy efficiency projects and funding programs. The other thing is that because we have those audits done, it gives us an idea of the quality of the house that we're working with and where we can focus on improving the energy efficiency of homes. We work with the Arctic Energy Alliance. We installed 20 energy efficiency wood stoves. We partnered up with, the project cost $217,000. We were able to contribute 50% of that funding. We want a larger project, and when I hear about the Detro project of 350 wood stoves, I wouldn't mind having that conversation. We also did LED replacements, bulb replacements, and we gave them not only to, we did all of the homeowners. We provided LED bulbs to public housing. We provided LED light bulbs to Sigachik, and we have enough. We're actually looking at providing LED lights to other communities in the region as well. So we've done all of that, and the other things that we've done is we've done the greenhouse project in Fort McPherson. We actually built an additional greenhouse, and we're getting people to grow their own food for the last several years. All part of the project, but I've had a wonderful partner in Trina that's been doing much of the work along with Roberta Alexi, and we've hired summer students in the project. And so we've tried as much as we can to really do well for our community, and we're not sure what the future holds for us, but my hope is that we can have members like you standing up and making these things happen. There's nothing is absolute or guaranteed, but we certainly need strong support in positions of yours as members of the legislature and giving the direction that's needed to make this effort happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard. Ms. Morgan, do you have a follow-up? Sure.
Thanks for that. It definitely sounds like you've been busy. I just had one question of clarification as I was typing notes. You talked earlier about how there was an IMS project that has been receiving funding for over a decade, but the struggle to actually train or find people who can monitor and manage the project. What does IMS mean? What? I just wondered if you could explain what you were referring to with the IMS project. Thank you.
No, I was referring to the biomass. Mr. Chairman, sorry, Mr. Chairman, referring to a biomass.
Of course. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Did you have any substantive questions left, or okay? With that, I think we are getting to the end of the presentation. I don't think we have any further questions from committee. So, Mr. Nerisu, I wanted to thank you on behalf of committee for this presentation. Certainly, I think I speak for everyone in saying it's very exciting to see what you're planning, and I certainly hope you're able to resecure that federal funding and get those homes retrofitted in the community, because it's certainly very obviously a great project, and I'm hoping our new federal government, or renewed federal government, can see that. Do you have any closing comments you wanted to share with committee before we end the broadcast?
Yeah, if I might take just several minutes here. Mr. Chairman, thank you, and members, thank you for allowing me to participate, and to your staff, thank you for organizing this event tonight. You know, the government, in my view, needs to make a clear and decisive commitment to ensuring that climate objectives they have approved and adopted genuinely guide all decisions related to achieving net zero. Public infrastructure, including housing and buildings, must align with this vision, integrating sustainability and resilience at every stage of design and construction. I know that we need a bold approach. A bold approach is needed, and deep retrofits and energy efficiency upgrades must be prioritized as fundamental elements of development plans, not as afterthoughts. Furthermore, community-owned clean energy projects should be recognized as vital contributors to the NWT and Canada's energy future and incorporated meaningfully into national and regional strategies. And the government of the Northwest Territories, directed by members of the Legislative Assembly, must support and empower communities to take the lead in housing construction, retrofits, energy planning, and development. Local leadership will ensure that solutions are tailored to meet the unique needs of each community, fostering sustainable growth and resilience while advancing climate goals. However, implementing these actions will not be without challenges, and we all understand that. We realize that financial constraints, outdated regulations, and infrastructure limitations can hinder progress. We've seen this. However, community engagement, workforce availability, and political commitment will be essential factors in ensuring long-term success. Additionally, effective coordination between federal, territorial, and Indigenous governing bodies and communities alongside private sector players and environmental groups is critical. To mitigate these challenges, governments must establish dedicated funding mechanisms, streamline what are regulatory approvals, and invest in innovative infrastructure and technology. Capacity building programs for communities, expansion of supply chains for sustainable materials, and multi-stakeholder collaboration can accelerate progress. Above all, binding climate action goals into legislation will ensure continuity and commitment across government terms. Mr. Chairman, a sustainable future demands decisive action. And the question is, will the government of the NWT follow through on its commitments, or will net zero remain an ambition rather than a reality? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for those words. I almost thought you were going to call me Mr. Speaker there. That sounded like a member statement from one of our former members of the Assembly. But no, jokes aside, I really appreciate those words, and I think committee does too. And we really appreciate you coming and taking the time to present to committee. It's been helpful and helping us wrap our heads around all the work that's going on in the various communities across the NWT. This is the third presentation we've had today, and it's really exciting seeing what people are doing in these communities. And I certainly hope that I get a chance to visit and see some of these projects in person. So thank you very much. Appreciate those closing comments, and thank you on behalf of committee. So with that, we'll close the broadcast and end this public portion of the meeting, and let everyone get back to their evenings. So thank you again, Mr. Narasu, and thank you, committee, and anybody who's tuned in.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.